Let me ask you a question. If I stripped away your career, your relationship, your responsibilities, your achievements, and every title you've ever carried, who would be left? If that question makes you uncomfortable, this episode is for you. Because somewhere along the way, many of us stopped building an identity and started collecting roles. When your identity becomes your role, you lose yourself every time one of those roles changes. Today, we're going to talk about the difference between your identity and the roles you carry, how the way you see and speak to yourself can shape who you become, and why major life changes can leave you feeling disconnected from yourself. We'll also explore how to separate who you truly are from who you learned or been expected to be. And I'll walk you through a practical identity audit to help you rediscover who you are and get clear on the woman you're becoming. Lasting change begins with rebuilding your identity, not chasing motivation. I help women gain identity clarity after life's biggest transitions. I'm your host, Tashaya, and this is Empower Legacy.
You glow different when you love yourself. Work different when you know your worth. Can't nobody dim your light no more. You survive way too much hurt.
Hey love, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. Before we begin, like this video, join the journey by subscribing to this channel and hit the bell so you get notified when I post my next video. This podcast was created to support women in a season of reinvention, to discover who they are, become the person they were meant to be, so they can intentionally start creating a life they love through identity, purpose, and personal transformation. A season of reinvention happens after burnout, heartbreak, financial hardship, motherhood, or just feeling stuck and disconnected from yourself. Over the upcoming weeks, I will be creating tools and resources to help make those transitions possible. In the last episode, we talked about the real reason you may feel stuck and how sometimes what feels like lack of motivation is actually a sign that you've become disconnected from yourself. But before you can figure out where you're going next, you have to first reconnect with the person who's going to get you there. So today we're going deeper and asking one of the most important questions in this journey. Who are you beneath all the roles you carry? You are more than your job, relationship status, role as a mother. Your identity is who you are. Your roles are responsibilities you carry. Many people spend years building their entire sense of self around their roles. The problem is, roles change. You can stop being an employee, a wife, a girlfriend, a student, a caregiver, a business owner, a parent with children living at home. But that doesn't mean you lost yourself. It only means one of your roles change. Your identity is the person who carries those roles. Imagine your life is a stage. Every role you have is a different costume. One day you're wearing the employee costume. Next you're wearing the mom costume. And then the wife. And then the friend. Costumes change throughout your life. But underneath every costume, you're still you. Most people mistake the costume for the person wearing it. That's why losing a role can feel like losing yourself. Identity is internal, roles are external. Your identity includes things like your values, your character, your beliefs, your strengths, your passions, your purpose, your personality, your dreams, the kind of woman you choose to become. Roles are simply the places where your identity gets expressed. For example, a loving person can express love as a wife, a mother, a friend, a leader, a mentor. The role changes, the identity doesn't. Here's what happens to so many women. They spend years becoming, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a nurse, I'm the one who takes care of everyone, I'm the successful career woman. And then life changes. The marriage ends, the kids grow up, the job disappears, the business fails, the relationship ends. Suddenly they ask, who am I now? The truth is, they're asking the wrong question. They haven't lost themselves. They only lost a role that helped define them. Now, I want you to ask yourself these questions. If every title I had disappeared tomorrow, who would I still be? What qualities would still remain? What values would never change? What strengths would still belong to me? What parts of me existed before these roles? Who am I when no one needs anything from me? Those answers are much closer to your identity than any title you've ever held. Really think these questions through. Write them down and answer them. I still remember a season of my life when I felt like I have completely lost myself. Within this same year, I became a new mom. I left my job to stay home and care for my son. I became single and moved back in with my mom. My life changed drastically in such a short amount of time. And when I look back now, I understand why I felt so lost and disconnected from myself. Almost every role I had known myself through had changed. I was no longer just Tashia, a woman without children. I was now a mother, and that was a completely new role and responsibility I was learning to navigate. I was no longer an employee who had been working since high school. I was now staying home and caring for my son. I was no longer a girlfriend. I was single and grieving the end of a relationship. And I was no longer living independently in my own place. I had to move back in with my mom. So when I say I felt I lost myself, I don't mean I literally lost who I was. Looking back, I think what really happened was the life I recognized as mine changed almost all at once. The version of myself I had known before motherhood, before the breakup, before leaving my job, before moving home didn't fit my life anymore. But I hadn't discovered who I was in this new season yet. I was somewhere between the woman I had been and the woman I was becoming. And that in-between space can feel incredibly confusing. Identity is the foundation. Think of identity like the roots of a tree. The branches are your roles. Branches may grow, branches may break. Some fall off completely, but as long as the roots are healthy, the tree continues growing. When your identity is strong, life changes don't destroy you. They simply reveal new ways for you to grow. This is exactly why I believe identity has to come before purpose. Because purpose doesn't come from a job title. It doesn't come from relationship status. It doesn't come from being needed by everyone else. Purpose flows from knowing who you are. When you know who you are, you can step into a role without losing yourself if that role changes. I want to go a little deeper into identity because identity isn't just about who you are beneath the roles you play. Identity is also shaped by how you see yourself, what you believe about yourself, and the labels you repeatedly attach to yourself. Think about it. What do you say about yourself when no one else is around? What do you believe you're worthy of? What do you believe you're capable of? What kind of person do you believe you are? Because those beliefs matter. If deep down you see yourself as unworthy, unlovable, poor, a bad person, a failure, someone who deserves mistreatment, or someone who has nothing valuable to offer the world, these beliefs can slowly become a part of your identity. And when something becomes a part of your identity, you often begin making choices that reinforce it. If you believe you're unworthy of love, you may tolerate relationships that don't give you the love and respect you deserve. If you believe you're incapable of becoming successful, you might talk yourself out of opportunities before you ever give yourself a chance. If you convince yourself that you have nothing special to offer, you may never explore the gifts, talents, ideas, and passions that are already inside of you. And this is why changing your life often requires changing the way you see yourself. You have to start challenging the negative thoughts and labels you've been carrying, especially the ones you've repeated for so long that they feel like facts. Instead of automatically thinking, I'm not good enough, you can begin telling yourself, I am worthy and I am becoming the woman I know I can be. Instead of, I'll always struggle financially, you can begin believing, I am capable of creating more for myself, learning new skills, and building financial success. Instead of, I am a failure, you can say, I am a woman who can learn, grow, overcome things, and win. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to wake up tomorrow and say a few positive affirmations and suddenly become a completely different person. Changing your identity takes time because you're not just changing your words, you're challenging your beliefs that you may have carried for years. Challenging beliefs changes how you see yourself, which can change your choices and actions. At first, saying something positive about yourself might even feel uncomfortable because your mind is so accustomed to the old story. But the more you challenge those negative thoughts, place destructive labels, and begin taking action that support the person you're becoming, the more your self-image begins to change. You start noticing something. You don't just think differently, you start choosing differently. Your standards change, your boundaries change. The relationships you're willing to accept change. The opportunities you're willing to pursue change. The way you speak to yourself changes. The way you carry yourself changes. And you may even look around at your current life and realize this doesn't fit me anymore. Not because you're ungrateful for where you've been, but because you're no longer identifying with a version of yourself who created or accepted that life. That's where identity transformation becomes powerful. You begin asking yourself, if I truly believe I was worthy, capable, lovable, talented, and deserving of a meaningful life, what would I do differently? And then you start becoming that woman through your choices. That's the difference between your identity and your roles. Your roles describe the positions you hold in life. You may be a mother, a wife, a girlfriend, an employee, a business owner, a daughter, a friend, or a caregiver. Those roles are important, but they are not the entirety of who you are. Roles can change. Relationships can change. Careers can change. Seasons of life can change. But underneath all those roles is you. And your identity helps shape the woman you choose to become. The standards you set for yourself, the decisions you make, and ultimately the life you choose to build. So don't just ask yourself, what roles do I play? Ask yourself, who do I believe I am? And maybe even a more powerful question is, who am I choosing to become? Now that we talked about roles and the way your beliefs shape your identity, I want to take this one step further. Because sometimes the hardest part isn't realizing you lost yourself. It's realizing that you may have spent years becoming a version of yourself that other people expected you to be. Think about how many messages you received throughout your life about who you're supposed to be. Maybe you were taught that being a good woman meant putting everyone else first. Maybe you learned that you had to be strong all the time. Maybe you were told you needed to go to college, get a certain career, get married, have children, buy a house, and follow a certain timeline in order to be successful. Maybe you learned that being liked was more important than being honest. Maybe you became the dependable one, the responsible one, the peacemaker, the successful one, the one who never asks for help, the one who keeps everyone together. After playing that version of yourself for so long, you can eventually forget to ask one important question. Is this actually who I am, or is this who I learned I needed to be? There is a difference. Sometimes the version of you that helped you survive a certain season isn't the version of you that's meant to lead your next season. Maybe you became extremely independent because you learned that you couldn't depend on anyone. Maybe you became a people pleaser because keeping other people happy made you feel accepted. Maybe you stopped expressing yourself because somewhere along the way you learned that your feelings weren't important. Maybe you chose a career because it made sense on paper, even though deep down you never felt connected to it. Maybe you stayed in relationships, friendships, environments, or situations because they matched the person you've always been, even though they don't match the woman you're becoming. That's where rediscovering yourself requires honesty. You have to start separating your authentic identity from your expectations, survival habits, labels, and roles you collected throughout your life. I want you to ask yourself, who am I when I'm not trying to make someone else happy? What do I genuinely enjoy? What matters to me? What do I want when nobody else's opinion is involved? What part of myself have I been shrinking, hiding, or ignoring? These questions might sound simple, but don't rush through them. Because when you spent years focusing on what everybody else needs, it can actually feel strange to ask yourself what you want. You may even realize that you don't know the answer yet, and that's okay. You don't have to have your entire identity figured out today. Rediscovering yourself is a process. Start paying attention. Start paying attention to what makes you feel alive. Pay attention to what drains you. Pay attention to what you're naturally curious about. Pay attention to the moments you feel the most like yourself. Pay attention to what you admire in other people. Because sometimes the qualities you admire are the clues to qualities you want to develop within yourself. Pay attention to the things you've always wanted to try, but taught yourself out of. And pay attention to the life you're living right now, because sometimes discovering yourself means admitting that certain things no longer fit. A relationship may no longer fit. A friendship may no longer fit. A career may no longer fit. A habit may no longer fit. Even certain dreams may no longer fit. Outgrowing something doesn't always mean that it's bad. Sometimes it simply means that it belonged to a different version of you. That's what reinvention is really about. It's not waking up one day and becoming someone completely different. It's removing the layers that were never truly yours, reconnecting with the parts of yourself you've forgotten, and intentionally deciding what you're going to carry with you into your next chapter. Because you're allowed to evolve. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to want something different. You are allowed to release an identity that no longer feels like you. And you're allowed to intentionally create the woman you want to become. And I want to share something personal here, because everything I'm talking about isn't just something I learned from a book or heard someone else say. I had to go through this process myself. There was a point in my life where I realized that if I wanted my life to change, I couldn't just keep waiting for my circumstances to change first. I had to change the way I saw myself. I had to become aware of the thoughts I was constantly repeating, the things I believed about myself, the things I tolerated, and even the way I spoke to myself. There were versions of me that struggled with low confidence. I questioned myself. I cared too much about what other people thought. I people pleased. I didn't always have strong boundaries. I had been in unhealthy relationships. There was times when I didn't fully know my worth. I didn't know exactly where my life was going. And I didn't completely understand who I was. And for so long, I didn't realize how much of those beliefs were affecting my choices. Because when you don't believe you deserve better, you don't always demand better. When you don't trust yourself, you constantly look outside of yourself for answers. When you don't know who you are, it becomes very easy to let relationships, circumstances, and other people's opinions or the season you're going through tell you who you are. So I started doing something different. I started paying attention to myself. I started asking myself what I liked about who I was, instead of focusing on everything I thought was wrong with me. I started recognizing my strengths. I started practicing gratitude and intentionally focusing on what was good in my life. Even while I was still rebuilding it, I started asking myself what kind of woman I actually wanted to become. And slowly I started making decisions from that version of me instead of the version of me I was trying to leave behind. I started replacing some of the beliefs I had carried about myself. Instead of believing I wasn't enough, I started reminding myself that I was enough and that I still have room to grow. Instead of needing everyone to like me, I started learning that I could be a good person and still have boundaries. Instead of thinking I had to hold on to relationships simply because I cared about someone, I started understanding that love and alignment are not always the same thing. Instead of believing that my past determined my future, I started seeing my past as something I could learn from. And instead of waiting for someone else to tell me what my purpose was or what I should do next, I started learning myself. The change didn't happen overnight. There wasn't one morning where I woke up and suddenly became this completely different woman. It happened through small decisions, small thoughts, small boundaries, small moments where I chose myself, small moments where I responded differently than the old version of me would have. And eventually, those small choices started adding up. I became more confident. I became more aware of myself. I learned how to communicate better. I became calmer. I became more comfortable expressing how I felt. I became more intentional about my relationships. I stopped feeling like I needed to please everybody. I started trusting myself more. And most importantly, I started understanding who I was and what I wanted my life to represent. I'm still growing. I don't think identity work ever means you reach some final version of yourself and you're done. We continue evolving. The difference now is that I'm not waiting for life to tell me who I am. I participate in deciding who I'm becoming. And that's what I want you to understand. You don't have to hate the woman you used to be in order to become someone new. You can appreciate her. You can understand why she made the choices she's made. You can thank her for getting you here. And then you can decide that some of the beliefs, habits, relationships, patterns, and versions of yourself that helped you survive your past don't need to follow you into your future. You get to choose what comes with you. And that brings me to something I want you to actually do for yourself. Because I don't want you to listen to this episode and feel inspired for 20 minutes and then go back to living exactly the same way. I want you to begin rediscovering your own identity. Now we're going to do a practical identity audit. So grab a piece of paper and a pen or open the notes app on your phone. Either one works. Divide your paper into 5 sections. Roles, old labels, who I am, who I'm becoming, and what needs to change. Now, under roles, write down the titles you currently carry, like a mom, an employee, a wife, a daughter, a friend, a caregiver, business owner, or whatever applies to your life. Under old labels, write down the negative beliefs or labels you carry about yourself. Things like, I'm not confident. I always mess things up. I'm not good enough. I'm too emotional, or I'll never be successful. Be honest with yourself here. Some of these labels may have been with you for years. Under who I am, I want you to identify the parts of you that exist beyond your roles. Write down your values, strengths, interests, personality traits, qualities, passions, and anything else that feels true to who you are. And then under who I'm becoming, describe the woman you want to become. How does she think? How does she speak to herself? What does she believe about herself? What are her standards? What does she tolerate? And what does she no longer tolerate? How does she show up in her relationships, career, finances, health, and everyday life? Really take your time with this section because this is where you begin creating a version for your next identity. Finally, under what needs to change, identify one belief, one habit, one boundary, and one action that would move your current life closer to the woman you just described. Please don't procrastinate and skip this exercise. This is where the real work begins. Listening to this episode can give you awareness, but awareness alone won't change your life. You have to actually apply what you're learning. So pause this episode and do the exercise now, or make a commitment to yourself that you will complete it as soon as this episode ends. Because this is how you begin rediscovering your identity, not by waiting for clarity to magically appear. As we close out today's episode, I want you to remember that when you build your life on roles, change feels like losing yourself. When you build your life on identity, change becomes an opportunity to become even more of who you were created to be. Each episode, we will get deeper and deeper, and I will continue to give you the tools that you can put into action. In the next episode, we will go over the power of self-awareness. I am so happy to be on this journey with you to build a legacy and live empowered. If you love this video, don't forget to like and share, comment below. I have begun. If you have done the exercise, and if you want to share any of your answers, you can comment below as well as message me. Go ahead and subscribe and join the journey and hit the bell so you get aware when I post my next video. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope this episode helped you understand yourself a little more deeply and reminded you of how much power you have to become who you want to be. Remember, information can inspire you, but transformation changes your legacy. This podcast is where your purpose meets power and every story becomes your legacy. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
You glow different when you love yourself. Walk different when you know your worth. Can't nobody dim your light.